didn't work and he was upset, remember? Yeah. Okay, so let's just continue. Moving off from here at the beginning. Who's speaking on this close. Okay. We'll be out of this in a few minutes, Ed, and then you'll be alright. I came plowing out of a matted mass and was right on the trap before I realized it. I was meant to he was up taking more balls, rattled his teeth. He kept jerking his front paw, which was jammed deep inside the hole I had bored. He was trapped by his own curiosity. I couldn't move, and I felt like my wind had been cut off. I kept hearing a noise, but couldn't make out what it was. The movement of the boy pup shook me from my trance. The unidentified sound was his bawling. He was trying to climb up the log and get to the coon. I yelled at him and darted in to get hold of his collar. On seeing my movement, the coon let out another squall. It scared me half to death. I froze in my tracks and started yelling again at my pup. The girl pup worked around behind the coon and climbed up on the log. I screamed at her. She paid no attention. Digging his sharp little claws in the bark, the boy pup made it to the top. He didn't hesitate. Straight down that sycamore log he charged. With his teeth bared, the coon waited. When my pup was about 2 feet from him, he made a lunge. The coon just seemed to pull my pup under his stomach and went to work with tooth and claw. The girl pup waited. Like a cat, she slinkered on the side, sank her needle sharp to the coon's back. It was too much for old Rainey. He turned the boy pup loose, turned around, and slapped her clear off the log, face forward. She came running to me, yelping her head off. I grabbed her up in my arms and looked for the boy pup. When the coon had turned him loose, he too had fallen off the log. He was trying to get back to the coon. I darted in and grabbed him by the hind leg. With a pup under each arm and running as fast as I could, I lit out for the house. Coming out of the bottoms into a fresh plowed field, I set my pups down so I could get a little more speed. I started yelling at them. Mama came flying out with my sisters right behind her. Papa was out by the barn, harnessing his team. Mama yelled something to him about a snake. He dropped the harness, and then a long lope started for me. Mama reached me first. She grabbed me and shouted, "Where did it bite you?" "Bite me," I said. "Why, Mama?" "I'm not bit. I've got him. Mama, I've got him." "Got what?" Mama asked. "A big coon," I said. "The biggest one in the river bottoms." "It's this big." "Mama, I made a circle with my arms as big as a 20-gallon keg." Mama just groaned way down deep and covered her face with her hands. Some big tears squeezed out between her fingers. Almost a whimper. I heard her say, "Thank God. I thought you were snake bitten." My sister, seeing Mama crying, puckered up and started bawling. He needs a whipping," the oldest one said. "That's what he needs," scaring Mama that way. Something busted loose inside me, and I cried a little too. "I didn't mean to scare Mama," I sniffed. "I just wanted everyone to know I caught a coon." Up until this time, Papa hadn't said a word. He just stood looking on. "Here now," he said, "let's have none of this crying." He didn't mean to scare anyone. Taking his handkerchief from his pocket, he stepped over to Mama, put his arm around her, and started drying her eyes. Mama put her head around him and glared at me. Billy Coleman shouted, "If you ever scared me,
wish I had a Nintendo Switch.
Alright, they're on the far
Oh,
side, Jason.
Why?
Like a vine because I want to know if it's actually a
Jason,
vine.
what do you think a switch is?
Should have.
Okay, how can you listen to Jason's answer if you're all talking at the same time? You need to hear one voice only. I asked Jason. I only expect to hear Jason. Okay, so don't be rude. Hands down and listen to him. Jason, what do you think a switch is?
It's like a type of vine or a stick that they're trying to hit you with.
Yeah, it's just like they'll go cut off a stick off of a bush or a tree and let you have it, right? Okay.
That's my
Does that
dad.
sound fun? Okay.
What kind of phone?
We'll be at it.
SE. iPhone SE.
Okay, we still have plenty of reading to do. Okay. It's 10:10 right now. We got it. We have 15 more minutes of reading. Okay, quiet please so we can continue. All right. If you ever scare me like that again, I'll take a switch and wear you to a frazzle. This hurt my feelings, and I really did get tuned up. Everyone's mad at me, I said, and I haven't done anything but catch the biggest coon on the river. Mama came over. I'm sorry, she said. I didn't mean to be cross, but you did scare me. What does it mean to be cross? That means to be angry, okay? I thought a rattlesnake had bitten you. Now that's all settled, Papa said. We had better go get that coon. Looking at Mama, he said, why don't you and the girls go with us? I don't think it'll take long. Mama looked at me, smiled, and turned to the girls. Would you like to go, she asked. Their only answer was a lot of squealing and jumping up and down. On the way, where did that come from, she asked. Did that coon bite you? No, Mom, I said. I didn't get close enough for him to bite me. With a worried look on her face, she jerked out my shirt. She said. Maybe this is where it came from, Papa said. He reached down and picked up my boy pup. His little black nose was split wide open and was bleeding. I saw a relieved look come over Mama's face. Looking at me, she started shaking her head. I don't know, she said. I just don't know. Did that coon get hold of your pup? Papa asked. But it wasn't the coon's fault. If it hadn't been for little Ann, he'd have eaten him up. I told how my dogs had tied into the coon. Papa laughed as he followed my pup. This dog is going to be My goodness, Mom said. You wouldn't think anything so small would be so vicious. Papa picked up a club. Out of the way. Stand back, out of the way, he said. This won't take long. My pups were wanting to get to the coon so badly that they were hard to hold. I had to squeeze them up tight to keep them from jumping right out of my arms. My sisters, with eyes as big as blue marbles, got behind Mom and peeked around her. Papa whacked the coon a good one across the head. He let out a loud squall, growl, and showed his teeth. He tried hard to get to Papa, but the trap held him. The girls buried their faces in Mama's dress and started bawling. Mama turned her back on the fight. I heard her say, I wish we hadn't come, poor thing. Papa whacked him again, and it was all over. It was too much for Mom and the girls. They left. I heard the tall cane rattling as they ran for the house. After the coon was killed, I walked over. Papa was trying to get to the coon's paw from the trap. He couldn't do it. Taking a pair of pliers from his pocket, he said, it's a good thing I had these along, or we would have had to cut his foot off. After Papa had pulled the nails, he lifted the coon's paw from the hole. There, clamped firmly in it, was the bright piece of tin. In a low voice, Papa said, well, I'll be darned. All he had to do was open it up, and he was free. But he wouldn't do it. Your grandfather was right. A sorrowful look came over Papa's face. He ran his fingers through the soft yellow hair. Billy, he said, I want you to take a hammer and pull the nails from every one of those traps. It's summertime now. It's summertime now, and their fur isn't any good. Besides, I don't think this is very sportsmanlike. The coon doesn't have a chance. It's all right this time. You needed this one, but from now on, I want you to catch them with your dogs. That way they have a 50-50 chance. I will, Papa, I said. That's what I intended to do. While we were skinning the coon, Papa asked me when I was going to start training my dogs. I don't know, I said. Do you think they're too young? No, I don't think so, he said. I've heard the younger they are, the better it is. Well, in that case, I said, I'll start tomorrow. With the help of my oldest sister, we started giving my pups their first lessons. She would hold their collars while I made trails with the hide for them to follow. I'd climb trees that leaned out over the river, jump out into the water, swim to the other side, and make trails up and down the bank. With a long pole and wire, I'd drag the hide up on top of the rail fences, swing it through the air, and let it touch the ground 20 or 30 feet away. I did everything with that hide a coon would do, and probably a lot of things a coon couldn't do. It was a beautiful sight to see my pups work those trails. At first they were awkward, but they would never quit trying. Maybe we'll meet after your recess. Old Dan would get so eager and excited, he would overrun a trail. Where it twisted or turned, he would run straight on, balling up the storm. It didn't take long to realize that the smart old coon didn't always run in a straight line. Little Ann never overran a trail. She would wiggle and twist, cry and whine. I never would admit it to myself. I always said that they just didn't like to get wet. They would follow the trail, the stream, and stop. Sitting down on their rears, they would cry and beg for help. With a pup under each arm, I'd wade out into the stream and set them down in the cool water. 9 times out of 10, one pup would swim away, and the other one would go just the opposite way. I had a time with this part of their training, but my persistence had no bounds. And so they loved the water. Old Dan would just jump as far as he could and practically knock the river dry. Little Ann would ease herself in and swim like a muskrat to the opposite shore. I taught my dogs every trick I knew and any new ones I heard about. I taught them how to split up on the riverbank, to search for the hidden trail, because it was impossible to tell where a coon would come out of the water. Sometimes he might swim downstream and other times he might swim upstream. Maybe he would come back to the bank he had just left, or he would cross over to the other side. Perhaps he would stop in the middle of the stream on an old drift. Sometimes he would come out of the water by catching the dangling limbs of a leaning birch and climbing up, never touching the bank. Or he could come out on the same trail he used to go in and backtrack. He would sometimes crawl up under an undermined bank or into an old muskrat den. One of the favorite tricks of a smart old ringtail is the tree barking trick. This he accomplished by running far up on the side of the tree and using his stout legs for leverage, springing 20 or 30 feet away before touching the ground. Jump down, trail up to the tree, and start balling his feet. I taught my dogs to circle for a good 100 yards to make sure he was still in the tree before balling. In order to learn more about the coon hunting, I'd hang around my grandfather's store and listen to his Some of the tales I heard were long and tall, but I believed them all. I could always tell when Grandpa was kidding me by the twinkle in his eye. He told me how a coon could climb right up the fog and disappear in the stars, and how he could leap on a horse's back and run him over your dogs. I didn't care, for I loved to hear the tall tales. Anything that had a coon hair in it, I believed completely. All through that summer and into the late fall, the training went on. Although I was worn down to a frazzle, I was a happy boy. I figured I was ready for the ringtails. Late one evening, tired and exhausted, I sat down by a big sycamore and called my dogs to me. It's all over, I said. There'll be no more lessons. I worked hard and I've done my best. From now on, it's all up to you. Hunting season is just a few days away, and I'm going to let you rest for I want you to be in good shape the night it opens. It was wonderful indeed, how I could have a heart-to-heart talk with my dogs, and they always seemed to understand. Dogs would. I really couldn't talk to them my turn. They really understand. Sometimes I would see the answer in their eyes, and the end would be in the friendly wagging of their tails. Other times, they would see the answer in a low whine or feel it in the soft caress of the arm's clicking tongue. In some way, they would always answer. Chapter 8. The day hunting season opened, I was as nervous as Sammy, our house cat. Part of that seemingly endless day was spent getting things ready for the coming night. I cleaned my lantern and filled it in full of oil. With hog lard I greased my boots until they were soft as a hummingbird's nest. I was grinding my axe when Papa came around. He smiled and he said, "This is the big night, isn't it?" "It sure is, Papa," I said, "and I've waited a long time for it." "Yes, I know," he said. "I've been thinking there's not too much to do around here during the hunting season. I'm pretty sure I can take care of it. So you just go ahead and hunt all you want to." "Thanks, Papa," I said. "I guess I'll be out a little late tonight. And I'll probably have to do a lot of snooping in the daytime." Papa started frowning. "No," he said. Your mother doesn't like us hunting very much. She's worried about you being out all by yourself." "I can't see why Mama has to worry," I said. "Haven't I been roaming the woods ever since I was big enough to walk, and I'm almost 14 now?" "I know," said Papa. "It's all right with me, but women are a little different than men. They worry more. Now, just to be on the safe side, I think it would be a good idea for you to tell us where you'll be hunting. Then if anything happens, we'll know where to look." I told him I would, but I didn't think anything was going to happen. After Papa had left, I started thinking, he doesn't even talk to me like I was a boy anymore. He talks to me like I was a man. These wonderful thoughts made me feel just about as big as our old red mule. I had a good talk with my dogs. I've waited almost 2 years for this night, I said, and it hasn't been easy. I've taught you everything I know, and I want you to do your best. Little Ann acted like she understood. She whined and saved me a wash job on my face. Old Dan may have, but he didn't act like it. He just lay there in the sunshine, all stretched out and limber as a rag. During supper, Mama asked me where I was going to hunt. "I'm not going far," I said, "just down the river." I could tell Mama was worried, and it didn't make me feel too good. "Billy," she said, "I don't approve of this hunting, but it looks like I can't say no. Not after all you've been through, getting your dog and all that training." "Oh, he'll be all right," Papa said. "Besides, he's getting to be a good-sized man now." "Man," Mama exclaimed, "why, he's still just a little boy." Give me 1 second.
14. He's already 2. Oh, I still 2.
Yeah.
Okay, continuing on that same page. Okay, page 71. "You can't keep him a little boy always," Papa said. "He's got to grow up someday." "I know," Mama said, "but I don't like it. Not at all. And I can't help worrying." "Mama, please don't worry about me," I said. "I'll be all right. Why, I've been all over those hills, you know. You know that?" "I know," she said, "but that was in the daytime. I never worried too much when it was daylight. But at night, that's different. It'll be dark and anything could happen." There won't be anything happen," I said. "I promise I'll be careful." Mama got up from the table saying, Well, it's like I said, I can't say no, and I can't help worrying. I'll pray every night you're out." The way Mama had me feeling, I didn't know whether to go hunting or not. Papa must have sensed how I felt. "It's dark now," he said, "and I understand the coon starts stirring pretty early. You'd better be going, can't you?" While Mama was bundling me up, Papa lit the lantern. He handed it to me, saying, "I'd like to see a big coonskin on the smoke wall in the night." The whole family followed me out on the porch. There we all got a surprise. My dogs were sitting on the steps waiting for me. I heard Papa laugh. "Why, they know you're going," he said. "Know it as well as them?" Well, I never," said Mama. "Do you really think they do? It looks like they do. Why, just look at them." Little Ann started wiggling and twisting. Old Dan trotted out to the gate, stopped, turned around, and looked at me. "Sure they know Billy's going hunting," piped the little one, "and I know why." "How do you know so much, silly?" asked the oldest one. "Because I told little Ann, that's why," she said. And she told Old Dan. That's how they know. We all had to laugh at her. The last thing I said as we left the house was, "What's climbing? Be careful, Billy," she said, "and don't stay out there." It was a beautiful night, still and frosty. A big grinning Ozark moon had the countryside bathed in soft yellow glow. The starlit heaven reminded me of a large blue whale. Just before I reached the timber, I called my dog. "Now the trail will be a little different tonight," I whispered. It won't be a high drag on the ground. It'll be the real thing, so remember everything I taught you, and I'm depending on you. Just put one up the tree, and I'll do the rest." I turned them loose, saying, "Go get 'em." They streaked for the timber. By the time I had reached the river, every nerve in my body was drawn up as tight as a rope. Inside and with ears open, I walked on, soft and warm. The way I have across the river, and from far back in the rugged mountains, I heard the baying of a hound. I wondered if it was the same one I had heard from my window on those nights so long ago. Okay, this is a good place to stop. Bottom of page 72. Top of page, bottom of page 72. Okay. So just sit still. You don't have to get up. Okay, Right names. Help me out. Okay, so you only have to recess. So does. What it is? Angel. Eve. Who else?
Jose.
Brandy. Jose Flores. No, I did tell her to do it. Who else?
Yeah, you just need to be open.
You were close. You gotta stop it, okay?
I might get in trouble.
It's a half recess instead of a full recess, right?
I thought you gave everybody else.
How did he even count so many interruptions?
Okay, go ahead and gather everyone.